The moment my fiancé Ryan and I announced our engagement, my best friend from childhood, Clara, squealed louder than anyone in the room. She hugged me so tightly that I could barely breathe and kept repeating, "I'm so happy for you, this is perfect." At first, I thought her excitement was genuine, and maybe part of it was, but I quickly realized there was something else brewing under the surface. Clara and I have been friends since we were 8 years old. We went through school together, survived college heartbreaks, and always talked about how we'd be each other's maids of honor. Naturally, when Ryan proposed, she was the first person I told, even before my parents. She cried, congratulated me, and immediately started talking about dress shopping, venue hunting, and all the little details. It felt nice having her so involved, until it started to feel like she was planning her own wedding. From the very first dress appointment, Clara's behavior stood out. She insisted on sitting right next to me, telling the consultant exactly what we were looking for. She grabbed dresses off the racks before I even had the chance to look at them and kept saying things like, "This one would be perfect for walking down the aisle." The first time she said it, I laughed it off, thinking she meant for me. But she stepped into the dressing room with a white gown in her arms, one in her size, and actually tried it on while I was changing. She twirled in front of the mirror, beaming, and the other bridesmaids awkwardly exchanged glances. "Oh, don't look at me like that," she said, giggling. "I just want to feel the moment." I brushed it off as quirky Clara being quirky Clara, but the comments kept piling up. Every time we met a vendor, she would answer questions directed at me. When the florist asked about bouquets, Clara said, "We want soft blush tones for the bride and maybe something a little brighter for me since I'll be standing right up front." When Ryan and I were discussing song choices with the DJ, she interrupted to suggest her favorite slow dance track, adding, "It'll look so romantic for the first dance." She didn't even notice Ryan raising an eyebrow. I started to feel like I was competing for the spotlight at my own wedding, and worse, it was with my best friend. The turning point came during a cake tasting. We had brought Clara along because she insisted she had the best taste buds for picking flavors. Halfway through sampling, the baker asked what we wanted for the design, and Clara pulled out her phone to show a Pinterest board, one I'd never seen before. The cakes were elegant, but the theme wasn't ours at all. The colors, flowers, even the shape, everything matched her dream wedding she used to describe back in college. She looked at the baker and said, "This is exactly what we're going for." I had to gently but firmly say, "Clara, I think Ryan and I will choose," and her smile froze in place. That's when I noticed a flicker in her eyes, something sharp, almost resentful. Over the next few weeks, her little quirks became outright intrusive. She began telling family members what the seating chart would look like, even though Ryan and I hadn't decided yet. She tried to convince my mom that my hair should be styled in a way that she herself had worn to prom. The final straw came when my dress arrived from alterations. I had kept it a surprise from everyone except my mom and sister. When we went to the bridal shop for the final fitting, the consultant told me my friend had already been in to see it. My stomach dropped. Clara had come in, claimed she was picking something up for me, and somehow convinced them to show her the dress. She later texted me, saying, "It's gorgeous, but I think I know how we can make it even better. Maybe add a sparkly belt like the one I tried on?" That was the moment I realized Clara wasn't just being overexcited, she was trying to insert herself so deeply into my wedding that it was starting to feel like she wanted to be the bride. From that point on, Clara's behavior escalated in ways I hadn't expected. At the bridal shower, she made a scene when a friend gave me a gift that wasn't in line with what Clara had suggested on the registry. Clara loudly questioned the choice, making the guest uncomfortable and me feel embarrassed. Later, when Ryan's family arrived for the rehearsal dinner, Clara somehow convinced the caterers to alter the menu without telling me or Ryan. She insisted her favorite dishes were a must-have, claiming, "This is going to make the night unforgettable." Ryan and I only found out when the caterer called to confirm details, and we realized half the food was changed last minute. Clara was charming and convincing enough that no one suspected she was causing chaos intentionally, but the tension between us grew. I tried talking to her privately, asking if she was feeling overwhelmed or if something was wrong, but she brushed me off and said she just wanted to help make the day special. Still, the way she acted made it clear she wanted to be in the spotlight. When the bridesmaids' dresses arrived, Clara demanded hers be altered differently, claiming it would make her stand out and look more like a bride. I told her that all bridesmaids' dresses should match to keep the aesthetic consistent, but she wouldn't hear it. "Why can't I have a little individuality? Don't you want me to look amazing?" she argued. At this point, the other bridesmaids started to notice the tension too. A few confided that Clara's behavior was making them uncomfortable. Some even said they felt like Clara was overshadowing the bride rather than supporting her. I didn't want to believe my closest friend was acting this way, but her actions spoke louder than words. As the wedding day drew near, Clara's attempts became more desperate. She suggested moving the ceremony earlier so she could have more time to shine, which confused Ryan and me since the schedule had been set months ago. At the bachelorette party, she turned the night into a competition to see who got the most attention from the guests. She even went so far as to flirt openly with Ryan's brother, which felt like a direct challenge. When I confronted her about that, she laughed it off, saying it was just for fun, but I knew it was more than that. My fiancé started to get worried too, wondering why Clara was acting like she was the star of the wedding instead of the bride's best friend. The day before the wedding, Clara showed up at my house unexpectedly, holding a bouquet of flowers that didn't match anything we had chosen. She said, "I thought I'd bring a little extra beauty to the day." I told her firmly that she needed to respect the plans Ryan and I had made, but she ignored me and said, "You're lucky to have me, you know. Without me, this wedding wouldn't be half as exciting." That was the most hurtful thing she'd said so far. It felt like she believed the wedding was about her, not about me and Ryan. I started to question whether this friendship could survive after the wedding. The morning of the wedding, I woke up early, feeling that nervous mix of excitement and anxiety. My makeup artist and hairstylist arrived, and the bridesmaids started trickling in. Everyone seemed cheerful, except Clara. She walked in wearing a silky white robe, not the blush pink one I had given all the bridesmaids. I stared at her, and she smirked, saying, "Oh, I thought white would be more festive for me today." I reminded her, firmly, that white was for the bride. She rolled her eyes but didn't change. While we were getting ready, I overheard her telling the photographer she wanted a few solo shots before things got busy. I figured she meant as part of the bridesmaid portraits, but I later found out she had pulled him aside to take photos of her holding my bouquet in front of the venue. Exactly the kind of photos brides usually take. The photographer told me about it later, looking uncomfortable. I was starting to feel like I couldn't even enjoy my own day because I had to keep tabs on her. When it came time for the processional, Clara pushed herself to walk down the aisle slower than everyone else, smiling and waving at guests. My cousin, who was right behind her, said she even turned back and whispered, "Don't walk too close, I want my moment." During the ceremony, she positioned herself so that she was practically in every photo of me and Ryan. At one point, when the officiant asked for the rings, she stepped forward as if she was the one handing them over, even though that role belonged to the best man. The most jaw-dropping moment came during the reception entrance. We had planned for the bridal party to walk in together, but Clara slipped away right before it was her turn. When I entered with Ryan to our song, Clara appeared on the opposite side of the dance floor, striding in alone like she was making a grand debut. Guests clapped awkwardly, thinking it was part of the plan. I wanted to scream, but I tried to keep my composure. Then, during the speeches, she grabbed the microphone before my maid of honor could speak and launched into a long, emotional monologue about how she had always imagined this day and how lucky Ryan was to have such a beautiful woman by his side. Her words sounded sweet at first, but the way she lingered on certain phrases, like "a woman like me knows how special love like this is," made several guests shift uncomfortably in their seats. By the time she finished, my maid of honor's speech felt rushed and overshadowed. The last straw came when the DJ announced the first dance. Ryan and I stepped onto the floor, ready for our special moment, when Clara suddenly walked up, interrupting the song change to request her favorite romantic track, the same one she had tried to get us to pick months earlier. The DJ, thinking it was a change we approved, actually started playing it. I stopped mid-step, turned to her, and said in the firmest voice I'd ever used with her, "This is our dance, Clara. Sit down." A few guests gasped. She froze for a second, then forced a laugh and walked away, but I could see her jaw tighten. After that scene on the dance floor, I tried to push Clara's behavior to the back of my mind and focus on enjoying the reception. Ryan kept holding my hand under the table, reminding me that this was our day, no matter what anyone else tried to do. For a while, things seemed to calm down, until it was time to toss the bouquet. All the single women gathered in the center, laughing and getting ready. Clara positioned herself right in front, elbowing a younger cousin out of the prime spot. When I tossed the bouquet, I aimed more toward the middle of the group, but Clara lunged forward, practically snatching it out of the air before anyone else could reach. The problem was, she didn't just take the bouquet, she held it high above her head, waved it around like a trophy, and shouted, "Guess I'm next, everyone." Guests clapped politely, but I caught more than one raised eyebrow. She then proceeded to walk around the room showing it to every single person, holding it in front of herself like she was posing for engagement photos. I was embarrassed, but I told myself the moment would pass. Unfortunately, she wasn't done. During the cake cutting, she somehow ended up next to me in almost every photo. At one point, she even picked up a fork and pretended to feed Ryan a bite, laughing like it was a joke. My stomach turned when I saw Ryan's mom's face. She looked like she was about to step in. The photographer later admitted he had to crop her out of most of the shots because she wouldn't step aside. By the time we got to the dance floor again, Clara had taken over. She requested song after song, pulling people to dance with her in the center. She even grabbed Ryan at one point for a friendly spin, which lasted a little too long. I saw some of Ryan's friends exchange looks, clearly uncomfortable with how much attention she was demanding. Toward the end of the night, Clara disappeared for about 20 minutes. I assumed she had gone to freshen up or take a break. Then I heard gasps and chatter near the entrance. Clara walked back into the reception wearing a completely different dress, a white, floor-length gown with sequins. My jaw literally dropped. It wasn't a wedding dress exactly, but it was close enough to make the entire room go silent for a moment. She twirled dramatically and said, "I thought I'd make a quick change for the after-party vibe." I wanted to pull her aside immediately, but before I could, she was already dancing and taking pictures with guests who didn't know what to say. By the end of the night, what should have been the happiest day of my life was overshadowed by constant moments of trying to regain control from someone who was supposed to be my best friend. Ryan held me close during our final dance, whispering, "We'll deal with her later. Right now, just focus on us." I nodded, but deep down I knew things with Clara would never be the same again. The day after the wedding, the aftermath was overwhelming. Messages and photos flooded my phone, some sweet congratulations, others awkward comments about Clara's behavior. My family and friends started sharing their own observations, gently asking if I was okay. Ryan and I sat down to talk about everything, trying to make sense of what had happened. We agreed that Clara had crossed every boundary and that it was time to address it directly. I sent her a message asking to meet in person. When we met at a quiet cafe, Clara acted like nothing was wrong. She smiled, said how amazing the wedding was, and even praised herself for bringing extra energy. I took a deep breath and explained how hurtful her actions were, that the wedding was about Ryan and me, not her, and that she had made me feel overshadowed and disrespected. Clara's smile faded, and she looked away. Then she said something that shocked me, "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to feel special for once. You always had Ryan, the perfect life, and I was stuck watching from the sidelines." Hearing that hurt worse than anything else. I realized she wasn't jealous of the wedding itself, but of what she felt she didn't have in her own life. We talked for hours, unpacking years of friendship, competition, and unspoken feelings. I told her I valued our friendship but couldn't have her actions continue in my life. Clara agreed to take some time apart to work on herself. In the weeks that followed, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. It was painful to lose the closeness we had, but I also felt lighter without the constant stress of her trying to hijack my wedding. Ryan and I grew even closer, cherishing the memories of the day without letting Clara's actions define them. Slowly, I began to rebuild my sense of peace and happiness. The experience taught me that sometimes people show their true colors during moments of joy and that true friends celebrate your happiness without trying to steal it. A month after the wedding, I got a notification that Clara had posted an entire album of her wedding photos on social media. My heart sank as I clicked through. Most of the pictures were clearly from my wedding, cropped to exclude me and Ryan. There she was holding my bouquet, posing in front of the venue, even standing alone at the altar like she was the one getting married. She captioned it, "One of the most magical days of my life. Felt like a bride." The comments were full of people congratulating her, clearly confused. Some even asked when she got married, and she replied with winking emojis. I felt a wave of disbelief and anger. Friends started messaging me, asking if I had seen it, and Ryan's family was furious. At that point, I realized our time apart hadn't changed anything. Clara still wanted the spotlight. I decided not to engage online but instead sent her one final message: "Take the photos down. You know those are from my wedding." She read it instantly but didn't reply. The next day, the album was gone, but she replaced it with a post about people trying to dim your shine. It was vague enough not to mention me, but I knew exactly who it was aimed at. I unfollowed her after that, deciding I needed a clean break. Despite the drama, the situation strangely helped me strengthen other friendships. The bridesmaids who had quietly supported me during the chaos reached out more often, and I found myself surrounded by people who truly respected me and Ryan. Over time, the sting of that day faded, replaced with the funny and sweet moments that had nothing to do with Clara. But even now, when I look at my wedding photos, I can't help but notice how many times she found her way into the frame. It's like a reminder of how easily someone's insecurities can turn a celebration into a competition, and how important it is to set boundaries before it's too late. Time passed, and life moved on. Ryan and I settled into our married life, surrounded by love and support from those who truly mattered. Occasionally, I thought about Clara, wondering if she had found peace within herself or if she was still chasing that spotlight in other people's lives. One day, months later, Clara reached out with a simple message: "Can we talk?" Hesitant but curious, I agreed to meet. The conversation was awkward at first, but she apologized for everything: the way she tried to take over the wedding, the hurtful moments, and the posts online. She admitted she had been dealing with feelings of loneliness and jealousy that she hadn't known how to express. I listened, acknowledging her pain without forgetting the impact of her actions. We agreed to rebuild our friendship slowly, with clearer boundaries and honesty. That day taught me that people aren't perfect, and sometimes the people closest to us struggle in ways we can't see. What mattered most was the willingness to recognize mistakes and grow from them. My wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and despite Clara's attempts to steal the spotlight, it still was. It showed me who truly supported me and gave me the strength to stand firm in my own story. The bridesmaid who tried to be the bride became a lesson in friendship, boundaries, and self-worth, a reminder that being yourself is the most important role you can ever play.